Well, hello, everybody. Matt Johnson over at SFREP. Glad you could join me today. We're going to be talking about technology. This is one of my favorite webinars to do. Going to answer any questions you guys have, and we're going to kind of show you what's for sale out there on the market right now. Now, we're going to be talking about desktops, laptops, and tablets and phones. So if you have any questions on any of that stuff, please ask them in the chat. Now, most of you have YouTube accounts and you're signed in and you can use the chat, but just in case you are not signed in and you can't use the chat, there are alternate ways that you can actually get in touch with me. So what you can do is I prefer you use the chat, but if you can't use the chat, you can get with me directly, matt@sfrep.com, or even better, you can text me at area code 828-919-9082. That's 828-919-9082. And I will answer your questions that way. If you're watching this after the fact, send your questions there because we archive these webinars each time so you can watch them later on. So if you're watching them later on, obviously you can't use the chat, so you can go ahead and email matt@sfrep.com, or you can text 828-919-9082. You can even text me when you are at the store and you're looking at whatever technology it is and you have some questions. I'll be happy to answer any of those questions for you. Okay. Some of you may not be customers of SFREP, and if that's the case, welcome. That is perfectly fine. We'll help you out too. No big deal there. But what we're going to talk about first are going to be computers. All right. So we're going to talk about desktops and laptops. Now, the way it is right now, laptops and desktops are when you're talking about specs and which ones you should buy, they're going to be the same. There's a weird thing that's happened in the last 2 years. It used to be that laptops and notebook computers were significantly more expensive than desktop computers were. And that's kind of flipped at this point. There's a much larger demand for laptops and notebook computers now. And so desktops have actually become more expensive because they don't make as many of them because there's not as much demand anymore. So they've actually become a little bit more expensive. Also with a desktop, you got to buy, if you're buying your first one, you got to buy a monitor. Probably going to want to replace the keyboard because the keyboards that come with them out of the box are not that great. Same thing with the mice. But keep that in mind that if you don't currently have a desktop and you get a desktop, you will have to buy a monitor. So factor that into your price equation. Now, I am a very big proponent of don't skimp on your technology when it's your business at stake. So I highly recommend, don't buy the cheapest thing on the market. You want to buy something you're going to be able to use for a couple of years. And it's at these days, it is, you can expect for a desktop or a laptop computer you buy now, especially if you buy a little bit higher end than you think you might need, you can expect to get 4, maybe even 5 years out of it. It used to be you buy it and 6 months later it was out of date. It's not like that anymore. But always buy as much or buy as high specs as you can afford, as you feel comfortable spending money on, okay? But we're going to go over what our recommended, I guess you could call them our minimum specs, but I wouldn't call them minimum. I would just say this is what we recommend because Appraise It Pro will run on really any computer that's on the market right now. But of course, it's going to work better on higher end specs. It's just going to be a better experience. So let's look at those recommended specs. And this would be recommended minimum or mid-size specs, I guess you could say. So I would say think of this as your target, but if you can afford more, go for it. So we're going to talk about processor, RAM, storage, the keyboard, and the connections. Remember, if you have any questions, get them into the chat or text them to me, okay? Recommended, there are 2 types of processors out there on the market right now. There's the AMD Ryzen line of processors and the Intel Core line of processors. The cool thing is that both manufacturers have been doing this the same amount of time. Like Intel's the bigger name, but AMD's been making processors just as long. They're both compatible with each other. And this is a PC, a Windows computer. They've gotten their numbering scheme for their processors in line with each other. So a Core i3 is the same, essentially the same as a Ryzen 3. A Ryzen 5 is the same as a Core i5. So you can think of them as going in levels. So there's a level 3, a level 5, a level 7, and a level 9. I know they're jumping numbers there, but that's just how it works. The level 3 processor, which would be the Ryzen 3 and the Core i3, those are aimed at students, specifically like middle school, high school students, and like elderly folks, people that just have a computer. They want a computer at home to look up something on or buy something on Amazon, maybe look something up, occasionally send some emails, things like that. A Ryzen 5 and a Core i5 is aimed at business users, and that's what you guys are. Gamers as well, like casual gamers or maybe power home users as well, but primarily aimed at business users. A Ryzen 7 and a Core i7, that's going to be aimed at power business users and gamers. And then the Ryzen 9 and the Core i9, that's only aimed at gamers. So really, you should be looking in the Ryzen 5 or the Core i5. But hey, if you can get a Ryzen 7 or a Core i7 for a good price, knock yourself out. And we'll go over pricing and look at some stuff here in a little bit. RAM, I would say at this point, minimum 8 gigs of RAM. But if you can get 16 gigs of RAM at a good price, go for it. If you can get 32, that's going to probably be a very high-end system. But also, if the price doesn't scare you away, go for 32. 16 is a good middle ground. 8 is going to be fine for most users, but get 16 if you can. The reason is, especially in the laptop world, they are soldering the RAM onto the boards now to make the laptops thinner. I don't have my laptop near me, do I? I don't think I do. But to make the laptops thinner and lighter, they are soldering the memory onto the board, so it's not upgradable. So I really recommend, if you're going the laptop route, the notebook route, get as much RAM as you can realistically afford. Always go higher RAM rather than higher processor or higher storage. They're doing the same thing with storage right now, but most computers you can upgrade the storage, and worst case scenario, you can always get, do I have one near me? God, I don't have anything near me. You can get very, very tiny little USB thumb drives that are like literally this big, and you can plug those in and use that as storage as well. So storage is easy to upgrade, RAM, not so much. All right, storage capacity. Used to be when I first started doing these webinars, I had to caution people against buying hard drives versus solid state drives, but everything that's out there now is going to be solid state, except on the very low end. On the very low end, sometimes you'll see it says eMMC, or it'll say something else. That's flash storage. That's not what you want. That stuff's rather slow. It's still technically chip-based, so it's solid state. It's not a moving hard drive, a spinning hard drive, but it's considerably slower than a solid state drive. So make sure when whatever you're looking at, that it says SSD or solid state drive. 256 is what I would recommend if this laptop is going to be your secondary computer. So something to take out into the field with you, something to work on when you're on vacation or you're traveling. 256 is fine. If it's going to be your primary computer, I would go ahead and do 512 or higher. Do a terabyte if you can, but 512 should be more than enough, especially considering that your report files and PDFs and all that stuff doesn't take up a ton of space, and you can archive those out, put them onto a flash drive or an external hard drive or external SSD and kind of keep them separate. 512 should be more than enough. On my desktop here, I have a terabyte. You're gonna find a terabyte of storage more commonly on desktops, and then 512 be more common on laptops. But higher end laptops, you can definitely get a terabyte of storage. And storage is usually upgradable in a laptop. The keyboard. The reason I put this keyboard on here is that you guys, at the end of the day, you guys are professional typists. You're typing out stuff all the time. You're writing stuff. That's what you do. So any keyboard that you get, if it's the keyboard built into the laptop, make sure that it has what's called the 10 key. And so if you don't know what the 10 key is, most of you probably do, but if you don't, I'm going to show you my keyboard here, if I can pull it up here. It's upside down. This is my mechanical keyboard here. This right here, number pad, that's the 10 key. Make sure that your keyboard on your laptop has that 10 key, because you guys enter a lot of numbers and you're going to want to have that. You're not going to want to go up to the very top to enter all of your numbers. So make sure that it does have that 10 key. Also, you're going to want to test out the feel of the laptop keyboard. Now, if you try typing out stuff on it, especially when you first get your laptop, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. It's going to feel a little weird. Just keep in mind that you will get used to it and the muscle memory will kick in after a little while. But just make sure that when you are testing out the keyboard, and I very much recommend that you go to a store, whether it's a Best Buy or an Office Depot or a Staples or wherever, go to the store and actually try out the keyboard. Now, keep in mind that most of these manufacturers, Lenovo, HP, Dell, what they do is they use the same chassis, the same shell for multiple different computers. So you should, even though they may not have your exact computer that you're looking at or looking for, they will probably have a version of that chassis that you can try out. So they'll all have the same keyboard, they'll all have the same build quality. Try out that keyboard. Make sure that it doesn't, when you push down on it, make sure that it doesn't bow. Make sure that it feels like good key travel, meaning when you press the key that it's going down enough, and that it's pleasant and good to type on. Now, if you're getting a desktop, that's not as big a deal because you can just get a different keyboard. So it's not as big a deal. Also, the trackpad on the laptop, make sure that it feels good, that it's in the right position, that you can rest your palms on it. You know, these quality of life things. Make sure that it's going to meet your needs. Okay. Also, though, keep in mind, give it a little bit of grace. You're going to get used to whatever it is, but you're going to want to make sure it's got good build quality. All right. And then finally, we're going to talk about connectors. Even on the lower mid-range or the mid-range right now, all these laptops are going to have at least one USB-C port. I prefer to have at least two. Also, make sure it has at least one USB-A. If you don't know what USB-C and USB-A are, okay, here we go. I've actually got something I can demo for you here. This is USB-A. See if I can pull that out there. See that? It's USB-A. That's the original USB, is the one we've been using for decades. This is USB-C. If you have a more recent iPhone, or if you have see if I can get it in focus there, or if you have an Android phone, it's the charging connector. The one, you know, it can go in either way. You don't have to worry about it. That's USB-C. The great thing about USB-C is it can slam a lot of power, meaning a lot of electrical power, through those cords, and it can slam a lot of data through those ports at a very high speed, to the point where you can get little dongles. They don't really do docking stations anymore, so you're going to be able to have little dongles that you can buy for $30, $40 off Amazon. You'll be able to plug them into the USB-C port, and you can plug your charger into the dongle so that it'll charge your laptop while it's plugged in. And it's going to break out to some extra connectors, some USB-A connectors, some USB-C connectors, and often HDMI connectors, so that you can have multiple monitors. So with those things existing, you can get a laptop and use it as a desktop. So you can just put it on your desk, plug in this one plug, and then all of a sudden, all your monitors, your external keyboard, your external mouse, all that stuff just comes alive, and you can use the computer like a desktop. And then when you want to take it into the field, you just literally unplug one connector, and then you take it with you out into the field. So I highly recommend getting a laptop, but if you really, really want a desktop, desktops do have their advantages. I have a laptop and a desktop. I'm on a desktop right now because it's got a lot more horsepower and it's got better cooling. And I have a standing desk. I don't need to take this with me. I have a laptop for that. But if you want to, pare down to one computer, I would say get a good laptop and then get one of these dongles. I'll do a search for some of these dongles on YouTube, or excuse me, on Amazon in a little bit so you can see what I mean. Okay. All right, so I'm going to put those back up on the screen real quick. Ryzen 5 or Core i5 minimum processor, minimum 8 gigs of RAM. I'd like to see 16. Storage minimum 256. Would like to see 512, which is a half terabyte. Keyboard, make sure you like the keyboard. Make sure it has the number pad on the right-hand side. And then connectors, we want at least one USB-C connector, preferably two. Now, people will often ask, can you run Appraise-It Pro on a Mac? And you can, but you do have to install Parallels. It's not the cheapest program in the world, but what it does is it comes with a license for Windows, and it basically lets you run Windows programs side by side with your Mac OS programs. And I mean literally side by side. Like they'll be in their own little window, and it'll look like Appraise-It Pro was made to be in Parallels or on a Mac. The cool thing about Appraise-It Pro is it's compiled so that it'll run directly on that M-class processor, the M4, the M3. It'll run directly on that processor so that you get a good experience. Everything's going to run nice and fast. If you run ACI or a la mode or ClickForms from Bradford, those are 32-bit programs, sometimes 64, but usually they're 32-bit programs. And they are compiled to run only on like the Ryzen processors and the Intel Core processors. Ours are like that too. Appraise-It Pro is like that too. But if you install it on a Mac or one of the newer Snapdragon-based PCs out there, we run on that perfectly fine as well. So feel free to get a Mac. You know, there's an old saying out there: the best Windows PC is a Mac running Parallels. So we fully support that if that's what you would like to do. All right. Okay, so let's talk tablets. So for USF-REP customers, I've been getting a lot of questions about what tablet people should buy. If you want to do LiDAR scanning, what we call auto sketching, but let's see, a la mode calls it scan to sketch. But basically, it's where you're going to take your phone and you're going to go around the house, and you're going to kind of point it up and down, and it's going to measure everything and kind of sketch out the sketch of the house for you. In order to do that, unfortunately, only iPhone Pros and Pro Max, but the iPhone Pro line. iPhone Pros and iPad Pros have that LiDAR sensor. And if you want to know what it looks like, this is an iPhone 16 Pro here. This is the LiDAR sensor, the smaller one right there. Get that reflection, there we go. That is the LiDAR sensor. And what it's doing is the LiDAR sensor is firing out an infrared laser dot pattern all over everything, and it's able to measure the time that it takes for the light to leave the sensor and come back, reflect off and come back to the sensor. It's crazy that it can actually measure that. But it measures that time at the speed of light for it to go and come back, and then it's able to tell what the distance is between you and that. And that combined with it knowing through the other sensors the orientation and where in the room the iPhone or the iPad is, it's able to map out the room. You can't see the dot pattern because it's an infrared laser. Sorry, they're picking up the trash right now, so it's a little bit loud. I apologize. But it's an infrared laser dot pattern. So you can't see it, but it can get you within about an inch of accuracy. Now, we have that software through an app called Instaplan, which is available right now on the iPad or on the iPad and the iPhone, and it integrates with Appraise-It Pro right now. It's not the cheapest program in the world, but it's worth it. Like, it's gonna save you a ton of time and time's money. We don't collect the money for it. You're gonna get that. You're gonna purchase it in app through Instaplan, and then you can integrate with Appraise-It Pro for no cost. Okay. Excuse me. I sent out an email about it earlier this week. I think it went out on Monday. So there's some details in that email. If you have questions on it, just get with me. We're going to do a webinar on it next Thursday. We're going to show it off. So, jot that down on your schedule. So next Thursday, we're going to do that. The other app that we're going to have is called Apex Portal. We're developing it. It's that Apex, those guys. We're developing it in conjunction with Apex. And Apex Portal, which is actually already available if you just want to do sketching in the field, it's going to be expanded so that it will do data collection, and it will also do photo management and photo organization. That program will run on any device: Android, iPhone, iPad, Android tablets, Chromebooks, Chrome tablets, your desktop computer, your laptop. It'll run on anything. All right. So a lot of you are probably going to use Apex Portal. So if you don't care about auto sketching with LiDAR, then you can get any kind of tablet that you want. If you want to do sketching, auto sketching, you're going to want to get an iPad. Now, I am obviously in that Apple ecosystem, and I don't, I'm not one to rag on people who are with Android or whatever. I don't get involved. I've used Android. I've had Android phones before. It's great. I love Google. I live in the Apple ecosystem. But if you have an Android phone, I would say probably consider getting an Android tablet. You already know how to use it. If you are in the Apple ecosystem, get an iPad. And you can get a cheap iPad. The iPad A16 is basically a large iPhone 16. It's got great specs, and it's only like $330 right now. Huge deal. Like, get an iPad A16. If you want to do the auto sketching, get an iPad Pro. It comes in two sizes: iPad Pro 11-inch and the iPad Pro 13-inch. I would say get the 11-inch, get the smaller iPad Pro, because you're going to want to carry it around with you. So I think the iPad Pro 11-inch is probably the one to get. The A16 is about the same size. But that A16, that's the best deal going in tablets right now. For $330, because if you get a $330 Samsung tablet, it's not going to be as good. So that A16 iPad's a great deal. Okay, just don't get those cheap $100, Samsung or Lenovo tablets. Lenovo and Samsung make great tablets. Just don't get the cheap ones. Get one. You're going to want to spend at least $300 on a tablet. Okay. All right. Wait, is there anything else I wanted to go over? Desktops, phones. Same thing applies to phones. If you want to do LiDAR sketching, you're going to have to get an iPhone Pro or Pro Max. If you don't care about that, you can get an Android phone or a regular iPhone, like base model 17, or the Galaxy S25 Ultra, or the regular Galaxy S25 if you want to save a little bit of money. Even those Android, those Samsung A15s and those A56 or whatever it is, those work great as well. You will be able to do data collection and photos on your phone. If you don't care about sketching at all, and you're going to do that when you get back to the office, do it on your phone. But you are going to want to probably have a mobile app when you're doing UAD 3.6. Just because there's so much that you're going to have to collect in the field, you're going to probably want to do it on a mobile app. You can do it on a clipboard. If you are one of those diehards, they're like, you're going to pull this clipboard from my cold dead hands, that's fine. Just remember, you're going to have to collect a lot of data, write it down, and then you're going to have to transpose it. You're going to have to put it into the computer when you get home. So you're creating extra work for yourself. But some of you have somebody who does that for you, so I don't know. Knock yourself out. We are going to have printable checklists that they should be out next month, that you'll be able to print out from Appraise-It Pro and then take into the field with you. We are also going to have in Appraise-It Pro two other things. One is going to be you can do those printed checklists, like you can fill them out in Appraise-It Pro if you want. We're also going to have a mobile mode so that if you want to take your laptop out into the field with you, set it up on the kitchen counter and kind of start typing stuff in, kind of like what a home inspector would do. You can do that as well, and then you'll be able to import that data into the 3.6 report. So you have some options. All right. No questions so far. Remember, text any questions you have. I'll be happy to answer them for you. And then remember, you can also, especially if it is You're watching this later on, you can email me, matt@sfarep.com, or you can text 828-919-9082. You can even do that after hours. I will generally answer you if I'm available after hours. All right. So let's take a look at what is currently out there, and let's look at pricing, because pricing is going to be very important. You don't want to spend a fortune on whatever you're, whatever you're buying. You want to get the best deal possible. I get that. Just don't be too cheap. Let's take a look at computers and tablets real quick. We're on the Best Buy website. I don't want to give too much leaning for Best Buy, but it's a great place. There's usually one in every town, and they tend to know what they're talking about. They're also not on commission there, so they're not going to hard sell you on something. But we're going to look at Amazon as well. But right now, we're going to look at Best Buy real quick. Let's look at laptop. Actually, you know what? Let's start out with desktops. Let's take a look at desktops and all-in-one computers first. Okay, so all-in-ones are a good option. If you're going to get an all-in-one, I would recommend don't get less than a 27-inch, because I know that a lot of you are as old or older than I am, so our eyes are not what they used to be, so definitely consider a 27-inch. But you can see here, a 27-inch touchscreen all-in-one from HP with a Core i7 Ultra, you're over $1,000. That's a lot of money. You can get a laptop with those specs for a whole lot cheaper than that. But you could also do, let's see, featured desktops. No, we don't want to do that. Let's do, let's do 27-inch all-in-one. See what they got. Now remember, sometimes they won't have these in store. You might have to order them. So an HP 27-inch all-in-one, AMD Ryzen 7, 1 terabyte of storage, 32 gigs of RAM. That's a beast. That is a beast. You're at you're about $1,100. But you could do a 27-inch Lenovo with a Ryzen 5. Remember, that's what we would recommend, a Ryzen 5, 8 gigs of RAM. And let's look at the full specs here. 8 gigs of RAM and 512 gig SSD. That is where you want to be. You're looking at, is it 27-inch? Yeah, so you're looking at $900. Not bad. Laptop's going to be cheaper, but not bad. Did get a text come in. Let's see. Works for, oh yeah. So they said, I remember you mentioned in another session that SFREP works with a Snapdragon processor, might be confusing something else. Yes. Real quick, I'll answer that question for you. The Snapdragon processor from Qualcomm is essentially a desktop souped up version of what's in your phone. Even if you have an iPhone, the iPhone has their own chips, but they're based on what's called ARM, which stands for Acorn RISC Machine. RISC stands for Reduced Instruction Set. What all of that means is that ARM-based processors. So ARM-based processors, you deal with them every day. Your phone, your tablets, some computers. If you have a Mac computer, that's an ARM-based processor. ARM-based processors are way more power efficient, like electrical power efficient. So you get way better battery life, and you get more power, more computing power for less power consumption. The other thing is that ARM processors, because of that reduced instruction set, meaning that they don't come with all of that baggage of having to be backwards compatible with older processors, because a Ryzen 5 processor or a Core i5 processor has instruction sets that date all the way back to the original IBM PC in 1981. You can technically run a DOS program from 1982 on a modern Core i5. Now, that might sound great until you realize that all that baggage, all that backwards compatibility comes with some major performance and heat generation, and power efficiency hits. An ARM processor is kind of like, we're going to wipe the slate clean and we're going to start anew. And they're amazing processors. In the PC world, that's where things are going. It already happened in the Mac world. It's going to happen in the PC world. You're going to find a lot of cool, new, mostly laptop, notebook PCs that are Snapdragon based or ARM based. They run a special version of Windows called Windows for ARM. And if you run something like Alamode ACI Bradford on one of those computers, it's going to run slower because it has to simulate that it's running on one of those Core i5 or Ryzen 5 processors. Our software, when you install it on one of these newer type computers with the ARM processor, the Snapdragon processors, it knows that that's happening, and it installs the ARM version of Appraise-It Pro. We actually have the ARM version of Appraise-It Pro. It's the exact same, looks exactly the same, runs exactly the same, but it's running bare metal, meaning it's running directly on that fancy ARM-based processor. So with our software, there's a terrible thing coming in from the window. On our processor, it doesn't matter. It'll run perfectly fine on one of those. And those are great systems to think about because, I mean, you're talking 15 hours of battery life. That's crazy. Crazy, crazy. Try not to get that in my eye. Okay. And the person who texted in, I don't have your name, but it said, I asked because I've seen them on sale at Costco and heard that they run more efficient. Yeah, they do run more efficient, but you could run into some performance issues on older installed software. If the software you're using is web-based, which most of the stuff we do now, except for business applications like Appraise-It Pro, that stuff will run fine. Chrome and Microsoft Edge both have ARM versions, so they will work just fine, and Appraise-It Pro will work just fine. So, other software vendors, Alamode, ACI, they'll probably tell you don't go and get one of those computers. I'm saying knock yourself out. Go get them. They're great. They're a little bit more expensive right now, but that's going to come down. And I think you're going to see the PC computing world is going to move closer and more in that direction. But right now, $900, not bad. However, this same laptop computer, 16-inch laptop computer with these same specs would probably run you under $500. So just keep that in mind. So let's take a look at desktops real quick. Let's do all desktops. Let's do Ryzen 5 desktop computer. See what they got. Okay, HP. This is exactly what I was talking about. AMD Ryzen 5, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage, $649. Now that's without a monitor. Remember, this isn't an all-in-one, so you're gonna have to buy a monitor for another $100. So you're at $750 at that point. Well, maybe a little more like $130, but somewhere in there, somewhere between $100 and $130 for a monitor. So you're gonna be at $750. Ryzen 5, 32 gigs of RAM, half terabyte of storage. You're at 800 plus another 130. So you're at $930 for a desktop. Wait till you see the laptop prices. So let's do that. Let's look at that right now. Now this is just Best Buy. We're going to look at Amazon. The one thing about Amazon you got to worry about is it's harder to return something with Amazon, and there are third-party sellers a lot of times on Amazon. You got to watch it. Now, Best Buy has third-party sellers as well. So make sure that what you're looking at says that it's sold by Best Buy. You don't want to get some third-party seller and then it becomes a little bit harder to deal with. So we did Ryzen 5 laptop. It's going to come up. These top two results. I mean, this is what I'm talking about right here. Ryzen 7, 16 gigs of RAM, half terabyte of storage. Comes with a monitor. It's a 16-inch monitor, 15.6. Touch screen, $500. Come on. You can't beat that. Over on the ASUS side, you got a VivoBook 16-inch. The VivoBooks are a little bit higher end, but it's an ASUS, so take that for what it's worth. Ryzen 7, 16 gigs of RAM, terabyte of storage, $500. I'm not a huge fan of the ASUSes. I think the Lenovo makes the best computers, and I don't say that just because they're based in North Carolina, which is where I'm from. But no, they do make great computers. If you don't know who Lenovo is, it's a Chinese company, but their North American operations and their computer division are based in the Research Triangle Park near Raleigh. And they bought IBM's computer division back in 2005. So essentially they're IBM computers. What else do we got down here? Acer, this is basically like Lenovo style. They're not my favorite. This computer right here this would be what I would say is a go-to if you want a good, cheap laptop. So a good laptop with a good keyboard that is light, made of plastic. It's going to be a lower mid-range, but made of plastic, but going to feel good. Not a touchscreen. You're giving up a touchscreen. But man, the pricing on this, Ryzen 5, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage. This would be an excellent secondary computer to take out in the field with you. It's on sale right now for $380. I have seen this like during Christmas. I saw this computer on sale for $280. So you can find it on super sale. I see this particular computer go on sale quite a bit. 15.6 inch screen, non-touch screen, but you're getting that Ryzen 5, 8 gigs. You're getting our minimum specs there for under $400. That's crazy. This is the HP version of it. Ryzen 5, 8 gigs, but you get 512. I mean, for $10 more, you're getting double the storage. That's a great deal too. And it has the F keys there. Not the F keys, I'm sorry. It has the 10 key. But what if you want something a little bit higher end? Once again, I love Lenovo. I'm going to talk them up. Their high-end computers are called Yogas. So let's see what they have in the Yoga line available. I just think that Lenovo computers are just built better. Dell used to have really great laptops. They've kind of slipped. Most of their laptops are plastic now. But these Lenovo Yogas, you're going to get a couple of bump ups for the extra money. It's going to be all aluminum construction, no plastic. It's all metal. You're going to get a glass touchscreen. You're going to get a 1080p web camera. You're going to get way better, a whole microphone array for when you're doing those Zoom calls. You're also going to get a fingerprint reader, and it's going to have their version of Face ID. So it'll unlock just by looking at your face. Plus you get a backlit keyboard, which is huge. This is basically the computer that I have from SFREP, my work computer, my work laptop. $740. What are you going to get for that extra money? You're going to get a full 16-inch screen, and it's 2K. So those lower-end laptops we were looking at earlier, those were 1080p. This one is 2K. What that means, double 1080p resolution. You're going to get a 2K screen, glass touchscreen. You're going to get all metal construction, glass touchpad. So this isn't plastic. And then you're going to get the upgraded webcam. And right there, that is the fingerprint scanner. This is also a 2-in-1. So what you can do is this right here. There's a yoga pen that's sold separately, but it's only like $40 that you can use if you want a pen. But you can also flip the whole thing around and it can become a tablet, and you can walk around with it in tablet mode, or you can tent it like this and use it with an external mouse and keyboard as well, which is what I do in a hotel a lot. So when I go to Las Vegas for our shows, or I'm going down to Orlando in March for the road show that's being put on by the Appraiser e-learning people, the same people that do the shows in Vegas. I'm gonna take my laptop, my keyboard with me, and kind of tent it up in the hotel room and kind of work from there. Love these computers. That's a great price. I've seen them cheaper, but that's still a great price. And man, you're at that level 5 processor, but you got 16 gigs of RAM and a 0.5 terabyte of storage all day long. All day long. Got some questions coming in. Let's take a look at those questions, okay? I don't want to get too far behind. Let's see. Can you use an iPhone with a Windows laptop? Depends on what you mean. You can tether your Windows laptop to an iPhone so that you can use the data in the field. So like make a little Wi-Fi hotspot out of it. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot of interaction between an iPhone and a Windows desktop or laptop. But you can always send stuff back and forth. I mean, I use Windows laptops and I have an iPhone, so yeah. You don't get that same kind of integration though that you would get if you used an iPhone with a Mac laptop, like a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro. Gary says, I remember you mentioning in another session that probably, oh, that was the same question. So I guess that was Gary's question. Yeah, will work just fine with those ARM-based, those Snapdragon processors for sure. I think he had another thing that just came in. Let me see if I've got that. I personally have been using a 17-inch LG Gram due to the weight, which is the lightest. Yeah, that's another one. You don't think of LG as making laptops, but they do make those LG Grams. And they also, I think, make tablets too, but they're like Android-based tablets. But yeah, that LG Gram is a good one too. LG, for those of you who don't know, they retcon it so that LG means life is good. It's not what it means. LG stands for Lucky Gold Star. So those of you who are older like me, if you remember in the 80s and in the 90s, if you had a Gold Star TV or a Gold Star microwave, that's the G in LG. Gold Star merged with the Lucky Chemical Company of Korea. It's a Korean company, and formed LG back in the late 90s. So that's what it actually means, Lucky Gold Star. Okay, getting off topic. If you have any questions, get them in. All right, let's take a look. But I highly recommend these Lenovo Yogas. Excellent computers. It's what I use, and I will not buy another laptop that's not. Like I'm a Lenovo diehard. That's what I'll buy until the day I die. I love them. They're great laptops. Let's see. I think this is Gary. Says, I use an iPhone with Windows and use Amazon Photos Prime, which can upload it. Yeah. So you can set up your iPhone so that when you take photos that it will upload them to the cloud, or you can set them up to upload them automatically to OneDrive, which will work. It's Microsoft OneDrive, which will work great with the Windows. And you can go to iCloud.com and you can download your photos that way as well. So if that's what you meant by using it with a laptop, absolutely that'll work. Let's take a look at the folks over at Amazon. What do they got? Great thing about Amazon is going to be there in 2 days. 1 day if you're in a city. Lenovo ThinkBook 16 Gen 7, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? 16-inch full HD. It's not a ThinkBook. Well, I guess it is. This is basically a Lenovo Yoga is what they're showing. So you got AMD Ryzen 5. That's an older Ryzen 5. That's a 1 or 2 year old Ryzen 5. 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gig SSD, fingerprint reader, etc., etc. This is basically a Lenovo Yoga, but with older specs. They don't tell you that. They like to tell you, oh, look, it'll beat a Core i7, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, this is still an older processor. This is probably like a 2023 model. 2023, maybe 2024, but probably 2023 model. So $500. Good price. You get a Lenovo. No complaints there. But just understand it's going to be like 2 year old. A ThinkPad. And by the way, there's your IBM lineage. The ThinkPad was the IBM ThinkPad. Now it's the Lenovo ThinkPad. So this line dates back. This is the business line for Lenovo, and it dates back to the IBMs. Lenovo ThinkPad Gen 2. That's an older one. 16-inch touchscreen. Older Ryzen 5. 16 gigs of RAM. 512 gig of SSD storage. I'm actually wondering if this is new or if it's a refurb. Let's see if it's a refurb. Let's look down here first of all. When you're on Amazon, you're going to want to look at where does it generally tell you? It'll tell you who is selling it. Yeah, see, here you go. Shipper seller is Issaquah Highlands Tech, whoever that is. Returns through Amazon, customer services through Amazon. So not being sold by Amazon. I am wondering if I sat here and I really dug through this, if this is a refurb. I almost think it probably is because it's not telling me right now, but at that price and its older specs, I bet you that's a refurb. So you got to be really careful about that on Amazon. Anything you buy from Best Buy is going to be brand new. You could get a refurb product on Amazon, so be careful. The other thing about Amazon is you can't play around with the laptop, so keep that in mind. Let's look at Staples. See what they got going on. Usually Staples is a little bit more expensive than Best Buy. Let's do Ryzen 5 laptop. See what they got. There's a Staples near me, so. Let's see, Lenovo ThinkPad. Yeah, see, look at this Lenovo. This is a new Lenovo ThinkPad. Ryzen 5, 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gig SSD. It's $1,000. That definitely makes me think that other one on Amazon is definitely a refurb, and I bet you if I dug through there, I'd find that out. Lenovo IdeaPad. Here's a Dell. The thing about this Dell, though, it's plastic, so keep that in mind. AMD Ryzen 5, 8 gigs of RAM, 256. This will be there's no way that's $1,000. What are you doing, Staples? Look, don't go to Staples. That's terrible. What? You kidding me? $1,000? Don't go to Staples. All right, I'm calling it. Don't go to Staples. That's terrible. So I'm thinking your Lenovo Yoga here. This one right here is $650. It's a Core i7 Ultra, 16 gigs of RAM, 100 or a terabyte of storage for $650. Heck yeah, all day long. That's a great deal. Lenovo Yoga. Did I only search for? Yeah, I did. I only searched for Yogas. If you're an HP person, it's the HP OmniBook is their higher end line. But it's weird because some OmniBooks are not higher end. So keep that in mind. But the OmniBook X is their high end one. So look for the OmniBook X, not the OmniBook 5. This one's okay. It's like an upper mid range, but this is a high end one. The thing I don't like about these HPs though, even though this is a 16-inch computer with a 2K screen, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage, it's only a little bit more expensive than that other one was. But look at that. No 10 key. That's kind of unforgivable. It's going to have good sound because you got these big old speakers on it, but I would rather have the 10 key. The other thing is with them doing this, you are getting full size keyboards instead of slightly shrunken down keys on the keyboard. But you guys need that 10 key, so I don't know about that. But if you really are an LG or if you're a HP user, it's a good choice. $680. You'll definitely be able to find that on sale. I've seen this exact one on sale for like $500 and something. So if you can wait, honestly, if you can wait until back to school, that's when you're going to get all of this stuff on super sale. So keep that in mind. Look for the sales. Back to school at Best Buy specifically, I mean, you can get some fantastic deals. And if you are in Charlotte, San Antonio, Houston, Atlanta, Orlando, I think, the DC metro area, places like that. Out in California, some larger cities, look up if you have a Best Buy outlet in your store or in your community close by, because those, it's basically a clearinghouse where they sell all of their open box stuff. So somebody buys, let's say they bought this HP computer that we were just looking at, and they don't like the 10 key. They've already opened the box. It has to be sold open box. They'll send it over to their outlet, and then you can generally get them at a much reduced price. If you're in a city that doesn't have an outlet store, a lot of times the regular Best Buys will have a selection of open boxes. So ask them about their open boxes when you go. But definitely go to a physical store and try out those keys and those keyboards. I think that's going to be pretty much it. If you guys don't have any other questions, remember, if you are watching this webinar after the fact, feel free to send me a text message, or you can email me my contact information. You're going to be matt@sfrep.com, or you can text 828-919-9082. And also remember that if you want to set up one-on-one training on moving over to Appraise It Pro from Appraise It Classic, or moving over to Appraise It Pro from another software vendor, or if you want us to help you out when you get your first UAD 3.6 assignment, you can set up training with us. Now, right now, we're booked out quite a few days. I think they're booking Thursday and Friday of this week right now. But all you got to do is send an email to training@sfrep.com, and we will be happy to get you scheduled for a training session, one-on-one. It lasts for about an hour. Most of the time it's with Lindsay. Sometimes, if you know Lindsay from tech support, she does the training now. Sometimes it's with me, depends on how busy she is or if she needs some time off. And we will be happy to log in to your computer or whatever, do a Zoom meeting, and then we can do some one-on-one training with you. So training at sfrep.com. And then, of course, remember, contact our tech support if you need any help, tech at sfrep.com, or you can call them toll-free 800-644-4051. I'm going to go ahead and put those specs up on the screen real quick if you want to snap a picture of it with your camera. This is the minimum that you're going to be looking at. You can take a shot of this, take it to the store with you and say, hey, look, I need at least these specs. Now, if you get a laptop computer with these specs, I would not pay more than $500 for it. Okay. Keep that in mind. But if you can afford $700-800, bump up your RAM for sure. Chris says, didn't the LG group acquire Trish Mathis? I don't know. I know that Trish Mathis TVs. I know that LG, a little backstory on LG. LG, they've bought a couple of people. And I know that, I don't know if they bought them. I know that LG made a lot of Sears branded stuff. So like the not Craftsman, which was it? The Sears appliance brand. Totally forgot it now. You know who I'm talking about. They made theirs. I keep wanting to say Maytag, but that's not what it was. But they made theirs. Curtis Mathis. Yeah, I think they did. But I know that they made a lot of the Sears branded stuff was made by LG. And also LG they have a bunch of subsidiaries, and one of their subsidiaries is LG Display Technologies. If you buy a OLED from Sony or LG, it's made by LG. So don't spend the extra money for the Sony OLED. Get the LG OLED because it's the same screen. Samsung does the same thing. Anytime you see a QLED television, it says QLED on it, and it's not a Samsung TV, they're making the panel because QLED is a registered trademark of Samsung. So, Kenmore, thank you, Gary. You're right, Kenmore. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. I kept wanting to say Craftsman, but that's their tool line. Craftsman is not what it used to be. Craftsman got bought by Lowe's, I think. The good old days of Sears. I miss Sears. All right, guys. If you have any other questions, feel free to contact me. Once again, I'm just going to throw it up there once again, 828-919-9082 or matt@sfrep.com. Be happy to talk to you. You can try calling me at that number. A lot of times I can't answer because I'm just so busy, but, if you text me, a lot of times I can get to you real quick and reply back. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me for this webinar. We got more webinars coming up. You can just go to training.sfrep.com and look at our training calendar and see what we got coming up. Next Thursday, I don't remember which time it is, but we'll send out an email. But next Thursday, we're going to be doing a demo with the folks at McKenna of Instaplans. You can see it in action before you buy it. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week and have a great weekend coming up. Here in the Southeast in Charlotte, we're expecting snow. I know up in the mountains where our technical operations are based, Saturday into Sunday, they're talking 18 to 20 inches of snow in the North Carolina mountains. I'm glad that I moved to Charlotte. I'm from Charlotte, but I lived up in the mountains for 18 years, but it's nice to be down here where I don't have to deal with 18-inch snowfalls. We could get 5 inches here, but God, I do not want to deal with 18 inches. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay warm out there.